All right, everyone. Unhappy Wednesday to all of you. Coming to you live once again from our compound here in Fairfield Township. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for tuning in from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if you're stuck at work, and let's have some fun as we put an end to, I guess, what would be day 2 of this week's hostage situation, well, at least for most of us, and look forward to tomorrow, which is, as always, Friday Eve. As usual, a couple of things before we get off and rolling. As always, if you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe the Green Legion Radio page. If those services are where you're comfortable, totally get it. Want you to be comfortable. But just so you know, the YouTube channel is the best way to view and listen and comment on any Green Legion Radio show. So please do us all a solid and, head on over there. Even if you don't intend to use it, head on over there, hit subscribe, and share that for us as well, if you would. If you cannot catch our shows live, you can always watch, listen later on. Now, you won't get a chance to comment with us live, but you can always watch and listen later on any of the services previously mentioned, but also on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Back Porch Saloon Crew update. This past Sunday, there was a bit of an emergency situation, and the porch decided that they were not going to open. So what happened was they didn't have a manager to kind of cover and they had to call. So we, as a group, had to call an audible at about 11:30 in the morning. And we ended up at another establishment down the road here. I am not going to mention the name of the place. I will tell you that the young lady who took my call and, got us all set to come over there, she was fantastic, very accommodating. I showed her the speakers that we used to play the fight song. Not that we had much of an opportunity for that on Sunday. Get to that later. But, very accommodating, very nice. Actually looks like we may have picked up another 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 more Birds fans while we were sitting there. Some random folks walked in. However, the evening bartender left a lot to be desired, which is why I'm not going to call out the place on, here on the podcast. I let the manager of the establishment know my disgust with that person, and I also left a review on, I think it was Google or something. So I handled it that way. I'm not gonna call them out on here because during the day they were fantastic. But anyways, we will be back at the Back Porch this coming Sunday for the season finale against the friggin' Giants, which now is a must-win if we want to have any chance to at the division and that coveted number 1 seed. So again, we had to call the audible from the porch to somewhere else last minute. Crew responded well, man. I started getting a hold of people about 11:30, and everyone was ready to go. Everyone was there by 1:00. So good job, everybody. We'll see you Sunday, 4:25. So don't expect too many shenanigans, as that one will run till about 8. And we do have to work tomorrow. And good God, after the amount of booze that was ingested this past weekend, I could probably use a dry out session this coming weekend. So we'll see. Who do we got over here in the room so far? Lou Mancini. Happy New Year, brother. Happy New Year to you, too. I hope everyone had a very safe and happy New Year. The holidays now being behind us. My man Fito in the room. Yo, yo. Fito and I did kind of a virtual New Year's thing while we were watching the Ohio State-Georgia game. And we did it on Google Meet. So, I had a good old time with that. A couple other folks from back in Connecticut were able to join in here and there. And, it was a fun evening. That game running right up to basically the ball dropping was a little much, but hey, it made for a fun night. So who else is in the room? Keenan. Happy New John. Fito again. On behalf of the Niners Empire, we would like to acquire the number 1 seed. Well, you can kiss my ass. We're certainly not letting that go down without fight. And we'll get to that later on. However, I don't know how any sports talk, whether it be podcast, radio show, or anything else, how you could do anything else but lead in with the terrifying, horrible event from Monday Night Football with Hamlin. That was really tough to watch. So you didn't catch it right away, right? Like a lot of people didn't see what had happened. The play itself didn't lead you to believe that anything would be wrong. It's a play that you see all the time, right? Higgins is over the middle. He catches the ball. He turns upfield. Safety comes up to make the hit. Higgins lowers his shoulder, and down they go. It's a play that happens probably dozens of times across the league every single week. And unfortunately, this time, it looks like, Damar, part of me believes that they might find he had some sort of underlying issue. It's awful hard to imagine that just the force of that hit could force that to take place. But I mean, scary moment when you watch the replay. I don't suggest going and watching it now, and I certainly don't want to see any of you sharing it anywhere. But when you did watch the replay, the fact that he popped right up and then just his legs went out and he just collapsed. The young man had to have the AED hit him twice while he was still on the field. Plus, 8 or 9 minutes of CPR before they could even get him into the ambulance. Apparently, they had to restart his heart again before they got into the hospital. So what I will tell you is, obviously, there's never a good time for anything like that to ever happen to anyone, regardless of age, regardless of what you're doing. But if it was going to happen, Cincinnati, it is the place. The UC Medical Center is widely regarded as like the top cardiac ward in the country, and somewhere near the top across the planet. So and it's not far. I know I get text messages from friends that night. How far away is the ambulance going to have to go? It is not far. It's a matter of minutes from the stadium there to UC Medical Center. And it sounds like he's slowly, there's signs of positivity over the last 24 hours. His uncle seems to have been the kind of spokesperson for the family. First reporting that, his nephew's heart had stopped twice. They had lost him. That they had been admitted they had been giving him 100% oxygen, which had then been lowered to 50%. And now they've got him flipped over onto his stomach to alleviate pressure. And the next step is to get him breathing on his own. I don't know how, obviously none of us know how long his brain was without oxygen that night. The scary part about him not breathing on his own, you wonder if the brain isn't telling the lungs to do what they're supposed to do. So again, we're leading the show with this. We're going to talk this for a little bit because it's the most important thing. Is this young man's health? There's just no way to get this going without, obviously expressing all of our deepest thoughts and prayers for Damar Hamlin, and his friends and his teammates and his coaches and the how the Bengals players too. I mean, T. Higgins has been getting death threats. There are people sitting in places, hiding behind keyboards, making all these nasty comments towards T. Higgins, and all he did was just do his job. It just turned out very tragic. Again, like I said before, he, there was nothing odd about the play itself. It's a catch. It's a turn up field. It's a safety coming up to make a hit. It's a receiver going in shoulder first. Everything about the play is clean. It's a tragic result to it. Lou Mancini, after 3 minutes without oxygen, things get dicey. Right. And that's what we don't know. And I'm not even sure they know. He's still here in Cincinnati at the UC Med Center. He's still in critical condition. He's been in the ICU the whole time. You hope for the best. What I can tell you, and the last few weeks we've done some, tried to have some fun with, boner of the week, right? I'm not going to try to make light of this situation, but the boner of the week, it's boners of the week for anyone out there who only cared about the game getting restarted that night or otherwise, who whined and complained about their damn fantasy football team, who cried up a storm about a bet that they had placed. And then there's a whole other contingent of people who are trying to politicize this and talk about how this is a side effect from a COVID vaccine. All of you, and listen to me loud and clear, if you have a problem with it, I'm not hard to find. All of you can shampoo my crotch, okay? The only thing that matters is the health of that young man. And for any of you to make it about anything other than that, you should be absolutely ashamed. All of us are disgusted by your presence and your words. And that includes some friends of mine who may unfriend me because of this. That includes Skip Bayless, although I do think while his tweet was somewhat insensitive, I don't think it was to the level that people are blowing it up to be. I don't know if anybody saw Skip and Shannon back together this morning. I got sent a clip of it by Chris Sack, and Shannon trying to just explain why he wasn't in there yesterday, and Skip cut him off trying to defend himself. So it's an ugly situation all the way around. I don't support cancel culture, so it would be very hypocritical of me to want people completely silenced just because they made these statements. But you should be ashamed of yourselves, all of you. The only thing that matters is this kid's health, okay? The well-being of that young man, and how he recovers, how his family handles it going forward. That's what's important. Hats off to the medical crew at the stadium. Hats off, again, like I said before, UC Med Center, one of the top cardiac places on the planet. When you saw the reactions of the players on the field, I think is when it really hit home. Because if you didn't see the replay, if you didn't see how he went down after the play, you didn't know what the hell was going on. You didn't know that there was something serious until you started seeing the way they were treating it and blocking off so he couldn't be seen. An ambulance coming on the players all over the place crying their eyes out. It was it was terrible. And the call to not finish the game that night, easily the right call. No question about it. There was no reason to resume the game that night. Um, we can get into the game here in a few minutes, but then you want to look at how America reacts to things like this. How how people respond. I've heard some things where people, oh, you remember 9/11? Well, look, guys, this isn't exactly the same thing, okay? But if you just take it as a tragic event and see how people react, I can see at least a comparison in that sort of regard. And this young man's charity, Chasing M's, which goes for toys for children in need. He was trying to raise $2,500. I believe the last time I saw it, the total is somewhere between $5 and $6 million raised just by people giving because they saw what happened. They see that he's in critical condition. They saw what kind of a young man he is, and they're trying to support what he's been doing in the absence of him being able to do it himself. It's it's unfortunate that it takes tragic events for people to come together, but apart from that, it's always amazing to see. There's so much bad, and people, I don't think people fully understand. Everybody just likes to turn on the news, and the news will just keep pumping everything that's wrong, right? All of the hate, all of the shootings, and just all the bad, people hating each other left and right. I'm still going to tell you that's not the majority. You take a look at this young man who's laid up in the hospital now, still unconscious, and we don't know what his long-term prognosis is going to be. But the way the entire country, hell, it might even be the planet at this point, has responded to support the young man tells you that there's far more people out there who actually care and are actually decent and decent to one another, regardless of economic standing, regardless of race, religion, color, or anything like that. It shows you that there's still people, and the majority of people still just are decent, right? Even if they donated $1, $5, we couldn't afford to donate anything, but constantly spreading, thoughts and prayers and things like that. People care, and people are, and people are, for the most part, I want to say that the majority of people are good in here. We don't have a police force for 98% of the population. You have a police force for the 2% of the population that are chuckleheads, right? And I think that's what you're seeing here. You have a small contingent of people who only cared about the game, their fantasy team, their bets, or trying to make it in some COVID vaccine nonsense. The overwhelming majority of people who have commented, posted, donated, there's still folks showing up downtown outside the hospital here. At this point, all Bengals fans having vigils every evening. That's the majority of the population, is people like that. And I think if the rest of us, well, I don't watch the news for the most part, but I think if the rest of the country would just kind of take a step back and just watch what's happening here, that nobody gives a shit. Again, what your economic standing is, all of the things that would separate people. When something tragic happens, everyone wants to come together and help. Okay? And I know that's not the type of thing you're used to hearing on this show, but I didn't think a rant was appropriate. I thought it was more appropriate to just give you my honest opinion of what's going on, what I've seen here, what you can see all across social media, and really just turn on the TV and you can't get away from the story. So, again, everyone who wants to be negative, you can go right on ahead and do that somewhere else. I got no time for you. If this affects our friendship, I'm okay with that. Okay. So, um, you know, we are we are unfortunately going to have to talk about the game a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because again, I don't think it's the most important thing. Everything we've just gone over is what's most important. But the game itself, I'm sure you all know by now the NFL has said they are not going to resume the game this week, and at this point, no part of Week 18 has been changed. Okay, everything is slated to go on as scheduled this coming weekend. So, I believe the NFL is respectfully waiting for a status on Hamlin before they announce what their plans are for this game. Because, when you look at the game itself, the two, and I talked to Louis Dominguez just entered the room. And Lou and Chris and I, we were round and round all day yesterday, and I was trying to throw out every scenario I could think of why they would not have to play this game. I just don't see where one exists unless both teams just say, unless there's an agreement where, they just call it no contest, not a tie, not a loss, not a win, just no contest. And you take the win percentage. That's going to ruffle some feathers elsewhere. But apart from that, you're going to have to play the game. And I don't really know how you do it if you're not moving things this weekend. So, I mean, I guess, one thing I threw out there, and Lou, if you're still, I see your comment in here, but, if you want to back me up here, I think one thing I threw out there was you could play Week 18 as normally scheduled, and then you bring those two teams back next Thursday on a short week to finish it up. And then, to Lou's point, Lou's comment back to me on that was they would then have to play their playoff games like the following Tuesday, and then the winners from there playing the following Monday to try to get it all back in line. I think that's one avenue you could go. The other avenue you could go is play week 18 now, and then nobody plays the week after except for the Bengals and the Bills. And you could go from there, but then you have the NFC just sitting around waiting. I mean, it's a sticky situation, and I think I think they could end up. It's difficult. I believe that the NFL has their plan already. Okay, I think they are just waiting, like I said, respectfully for what the future, or at least the near future, is going to hold for Hamlin before they commit the Buffalo Bills to anything. All right. So, I don't really know what to tell you there. What I can tell you is that game has so many implications as far as seeding in the AFC that if you don't play it, while everyone will understand why, and nobody's gonna question the decision, it's gonna make things sticky for seeding purposes. Again, second fiddle. Obviously, the kid's health is the most important thing, and the team's being focused. But my goodness, it's gonna make it a sticky situation. Let me hop over to the room here. I've been going on for a few minutes. I did want to get all of that off my chest here. I know I've not paid much attention here for the last few minutes. So, Keenan Harmon, if you haven't taken a CPR course, what the hell are you waiting for? Shit happens. Hopefully, if you're there when agreed. I took one some years ago, but I'm not certified anymore. Lou Mancini, it's a shame that tragedy brings this heartfelt kindness out, and we don't love each other every damn day. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, Lou. And I'm not so sure that we don't, buddy. I just think that people allow the talking heads in the box to distort their vision of what's actually going on outside their house. I've said for years, dating back to the first, the Trump administration when he was first elected, and half the country went bananas. Just go talk to your neighbors. It's not as bad as what they're telling you on the TV. It's just not. And it never has been. Where are we at here? Lou Dominguez, my brother. Agreed, Lou. I absolutely hate the Bills that are my team rivals. my team's rival, and everyone down here is feeling for that whole team, and most importantly, that young man. That's what's most important. We all know it. Oh God, Russ Taylor, or do an off the books Xbox simulated game, run the game for 30 times. Look, I mean, I listen to sports talk when I'm on my lunch break, when I'm on my way to work, when I'm on my way home from work. A lot of times I'll have it in my earbuds while I'm kind of getting some notes together for the show. And I heard all kinds of off the wall suggestions for how to handle the game. I was happy that the game wasn't all the talk like yesterday, right? That didn't really start. You had your chuckleheads like we mentioned before, but that didn't really start. Eventually, things were going as the situation with the young man has kind of leveled out. He's sounds like he's slowly getting better. Attention was going to shift to what happens with the game, and I think that's okay. As long as it's put in its rightful place. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I heard all kinds of stuff. One guy wanted to take the top three, like a skills competition between the two teams. Take the three fastest dudes from each team, and then and have them race. Have the three strongest dudes from each team wrestle. Or I mean, it was just wild. So there are people with ideas out there. But I mean, like I said, I think the NFL's got their plan ready. They're just kind of waiting to see how Hamlin shakes up here. Lou Dominguez, I think we're looking at a Tuesday night wildcard football game next week, and then a Monday night game in the divisional round. Yeah, so that would back up what I was saying about playing week 18 as normal, and then having the Bills and the Bengals finish their game next Thursday night, and then the playoff game being the following Tuesday, and then the winners, the divisional round, the following Monday. And then by the time you get the championship weekend, pretty much things are back to normal. And you still keep your week off in between championship weekend and the Super Bowl, which I know they like to do because they don't like to compress the media into 1 week. And they want to have room for the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl, like, who cares? Nobody cares about that thing anymore. That's what needs to turn into just strictly a skills competition. I mean, just that. But anyways, so that's the best I've got on Hamlin. I hope it didn't ruffle any feathers. And actually, I'll tell you what. If people are listening that were offended by me telling them to shampoo my crotch for concentrating more on the game and gambling and fantasy football, I hope it did piss you off. I really hope it did. And if you got a problem and you're here local, I'm not hard to find. I go to work, I come home, and I go watch the birds at the back porch. Pretty easy to find. So that's what I got on Hamlin. Let me hop over here again. I've had a guest on every week for like the last 4 or 5 weeks. And so I didn't really try to look for someone to come on this week, because while I enjoy having someone else on with me, and I think it makes the show more enjoyable all the way around, I do like this sometimes too. Really what I miss when I have the guest is interacting with all of you in the room. Because I'm paying attention to the guest, right? And then last week I had Quimby pop in from out of nowhere. So let's hop over here again. Lou Dominguez again. Xbox suggestion is complete ridiculous. Tecmo Bowl would work way better. Russ Taylor. At the end of the day, are the players on the Bengals and Bills emotionally stable to play these games right now? And I think that's an excellent question. I think what you will find, especially for the Bills players, is that they would. I don't think Hamlin would want them sitting on their hands, right? And I think that's the way they're going to treat it. That Hamlin would want to be out there playing, so they should, that they're going to want to be out there playing. I think you're going to see them play very inspired football this weekend against New England in an effort to wrap up and try to get that number 1 seed. Lou Mancini. My dad's a barber, and I could teach those douche nuts how to shampoo your crotch. All right, let's get off shampooing my crotch here. Hey, there she is. Lou's better half. 305 Sports Babe. Ashley, how you doing, darling? Great to see you. Are you guys on tonight, or are you postponing again? I can't remember what you decided to do for this week, but let me know because I like to hop in there and razz you guys a little bit when you go on too. So thank you for dropping in. I always appreciate it. All right, we're gonna move on, okay? And we're gonna talk a little college football. You guys know I love it. You guys know I was very amped up for for the playoff this past weekend. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't pumped up for the Rose Bowl. I mean, I'm a Penn State fan, so I was very excited for that. Utah had a big year. I was concerned going into that game that it wasn't going to go well for Penn State. You guys know my stance on Penn State all year long. I thought they were overranked based on that big win at Auburn. I didn't think Auburn was all that good. Before the Rose Bowl, I thought Penn State had played two good teams all year long in Ohio State and Michigan and got their doors blown in by both. So when they responded the way they did in the Rose Bowl, it was nice. And Russ Taylor, thank you for dropping this in. I was about to just say the same thing, but we'll give you the credit, bud. Class move by Penn State, getting off the buses in Franco jerseys. So that was, I agree. But congratulations to the Nittany Lions, right? Solid 35-21 win in the Rose Bowl over Pac-12 champ Utah. We are a great way to close the season. Sean Clifford ends his 56-year career at Penn State with 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, does it not feel like he's played there for a decade? He was a 6th-year senior. Look, I'm not saying he's a bad kid or anything. He's a bad guy or whatever, but bottom line, man, as far as big game quarterback, that guy never did it for me in a big game, which coupled with, James Franklin's lack of ability to coach in a big game, it's left a lot to be desired with the two of them kind of in the two most prominent positions on the field. The Rose Bowl win was nice. It was great to see. Again, 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nice way for Clifford to end his career at Penn State. I don't think he'll be much of a pro quarterback if he goes pro at all. But he walks away from the Penn State program as the all-time leader in completion percentage at 61.2, completions at 817, attempts at 1,335, yards at 10,382, and touchdowns with 84. And he is second in wins as a starter with 31. I mean, it's a really nice career for him at Penn State. Again, not much of a big game quarterback. I do not see him playing in the NFL. I mean, hell, Trace McSorley looked like hot garbage, suiting up for Arizona. Sean Clifford's not Trace McSorley. So if you just look at it that way, I don't really see Clifford having much of an NFL career to speak of. Will he get drafted? Who knows? I mean, somebody needs a third-round grab. I mean, hell, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. Who the hell knows? James Franklin finally coached the game to win rather than coaching not to lose. That was nice to see, right? So, as this season ends and Clifford moves on, and we're bringing in another nice recruiting class, and the Drew Aller era officially begins. So, looking forward to 2023 Penn State football. For now, nice end of the year. Grab that Rose Bowl trophy and look forward to next season. Over to the playoff. You guys know I've been on the TCU bandwagon for quite some time now. I did not believe that they were getting the respect that they deserved all year long. A lot of comeback victories in the second half led you to believe that maybe they weren't as good as they were. The committee certainly weren't ranked where I thought they should be. And as the season started to wind down and they were having trouble getting into, that top four before they finally were in there, I started to get aggravated with it. And so I started calling out the committee on here, talking to my friends, badgering people all over, anybody who would listen. And they finally get in there, and I've been on the bandwagon, man. They're a fun team to watch. Mad Max Duggan at quarterback. That giant matchup problem at wide receiver and Quentin Johnston. Fun team to watch. And their defense is a little bit better than people think. So not surprised that they got in. A little bit surprised that they beat Michigan. I thought Michigan's physicality would kind of take over at some point, but we can run through some of it here. I know Fito's not going to like this part of the show, but that's tough shit for him. Michigan's defense was giving up 13 points a game coming into that playoff game. The TCU offense hung 38 points on them. So huge, just about three times the amount of points that Michigan normally gives up. Again, led by Heisman finalist Max Duggan, who went for 225 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he also carried the ball on the ground for another 57 yards and took 2 more into the end zone. Kendre Miller, the running back, I really thought that they were going to need Kendre Miller to be, a huge, huge part of that thing. And when he couldn't, he couldn't go. They come in with DeMercado, and you're like, oh man, this is, he's not Miller. Michigan, here comes Michigan. DeMercado carries the ball 17 times for 150 yards and a touchdown. So, they didn't really miss a beat there. And of course, the wide receiving core, like I said before, led by Quentin Johnston, 6 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown. That one, the huge one late in the game, Duggan kind of drifting back, just buying time, gets it out there on the crossing route to Johnston, and he's just gone. He doesn't look like he's moving that fast. But the truth of the matter is he is 6'4". He's 215 pounds, and he runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. So he, he might not look like he's moving that fast, but that cat is moving, baby. Trust me. Keenan Harmon. Franklin called the Eagles coaches, but no, Keenan. We do not want James Franklin calling the Eagles coaches, okay? James Franklin coaching to win a game one time is not enough for me to call for me to want him to call Nick Sirianni. I get it, and we'll get to the New Orleans stuff here in a few. Who do we got here? Lou Dominguez. What's the line on the game? And do you think the Horny Toads can rumble with the Dogs? I'm going to get there, Lou. I believe the line is 13, but I'm going to get there as far as the national championship. So, 488 total yards of offense for TCU against a defense that was ranked 7th overall. That's really getting it done. Flip it over to the other side. Fito, your Wolverines had more yards, 528, more first downs, 25-19, and held the ball for roughly 5 minutes longer than TCU. Quarterback McCarthy goes for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also 2 interceptions, but he also ran for 52 yards and a touchdown. Donovan Edwards, halfback, rambles off 119 yards on 23 carries, although the touchdowns on the ground went to Roman Wilson and Kalel Muggins. The wide receivers are led by Ronnie Bell with 6 catches for 135 yards and a touchdown, while Wilson, as well as Roman Wilson, who went for another 5 for 104 and another TD. Both teams turned it over 3 times, with each tossing 2 picks and 1 fumble. So, guys, what was the difference in the game? Really? You just heard me tell you before, Michigan had more yards by, 40? They had 6 more first downs and held the ball for 5 minutes longer, roughly. It was like 4 minutes and 50 seconds. What was the difference? They each turned the ball over 3 times, 2 picks and a fumble. Difference is TCU took both of those interceptions back to the house, right? That's the difference. And then it got tight up to the, up until the end, but ultimately TCU 51-45 victory. I mean, it was a fun game to watch. When you go into the weekend and your team isn't in the playoffs, again, Penn State fan, great that we got the Rose Bowl victory, but we weren't in the playoff. So when your team's not in the playoff, what do you want? You want to see good games. That one didn't disappoint. Then you flip it over to the night game. Ohio State and Georgia. This one didn't disappoint either. The Buckeyes, by far and away, I thought played their best game of the season. And I know they put up huge numbers in some games earlier in the year, but considering who they were up against in the moment that the game, the magnitude of the game, they played their best game of the year. They pushed Georgia to the absolute limit. CJ Stroud gave us a final look as to why he was considered a Heisman candidate. And this is something that a good friend of mine and myself both kind of laughed off. But boy, he really did show you that when he's on his game, he is every bit as deadly as any other quarterback in the country. 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Deadly all night. He actually ran for 34 yards, which, doesn't seem like a lot until you realize that he basically didn't run all season. If you remember back to the Ohio State-Michigan game when we talked about that on here, Michigan just dropped everyone in coverage. There were lanes and room for him to run, and he just didn't do it. And in part cost Ohio State that game. Now, he wasn't great on the ground against Georgia, but he took the yards when they were there, which is something that he hadn't done. Apart from, he had one game, I think, what was it, Northwestern, back in November. Weather's horrible. He ran for 79 yards that day. That's the only other time he was over what he got against Georgia. On the year, 108 rushing yards. On the year. He had 6 games where he was in the negative. But he used it on he used it on New Year's Eve. He has that big game, so who's really jumping for joy? Obviously he is. He raised his draft stock, no question about it. But what NFL team is jumping for joy right now? My guess is the team that has the number 2 pick, and right now that's the Chicago Bears. Right? They currently hold the number 2 pick in the 23 draft, and my guess is the number 1 pick will be Houston, and they will take they'll take Bryce Young from Alabama, which means the Bears sitting at 2, they could get a king's ransom for that pick. Considering, now you have Stroud, who just catapulted himself back into the mix there. So, they've got to be happy unless they decide to go defense. But anyways, we're talking about college ball. But overall, the Buckeyes were not really overly effective on the ground against Georgia. You wouldn't expect to be overly effective on the ground against Georgia, considering their defense, especially up front, anchored by that monster Carter in the middle. To think that him and Jordan Davis were stepping on the field at the same time at some points last year is disgusting. The Buckeyes tallied just 119 yards on 32 carries. It's 3.7 per carry. Not great. 1 rushing touchdown from Williams. The receivers are paced by Egbuka and Harrison Jr. Egbuka, 8 catches, 112 and a touchdown. Harrison, 5 catches, 106 and 2 touchdowns. And Ohio State continues to just be a factory of wide receivers. I mean, you gotta wonder where that team is if with these 2 guys, plus if Jackson Smith and Jigba could have been on the field all year long. I guess he could have been on the field for this game, but decided to forego because he wants to go in the NFL draft. Whatever. I think it's a little selfish, but you do you, bud. Over to Georgia. Stetson Bennett, guys, just continues to keep winning football games. That's all this guy does. He just wins football games. 398 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And although he was negative 18 on the ground, he did actually get in the end zone once. The Heisman candidate will undoubtedly be. I mean, he'll have to be sought after in the draft, right? He's got to be. He's not that. He doesn't have the size, 5'11". He's not a big guy, but the kid's a winner. In games he's played in at Georgia, and I did not look at which, if he was the starter or whatever. Just in games he's played in at Georgia, his record is 36-4. He's just a winner. So, I mean, he's going to get some interest. I mean, he's not going to be up at the top of the draft with Stroud and Young and those guys, but 36-4 is 36-4. And in the SEC. So you take that into account too. Bulldogs were more successful on the ground than the Buckeyes. 26 carries, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Well-balanced attack with Kendall Milton scoring the other TD besides Bennett. For the receivers, Stetson Bennett connected with 10 different receivers that night. Arian Smith went for 129 yards and a touchdown. McIntosh and Mitchell holding the other 2 scores. McIntosh actually had 126 combined yards, 70 on the ground, 56 in the air, and the 1 touchdown. Ultimately, though, Georgia surges in the fourth quarter, posting 18 points to Ohio State's 3 en route to a comeback victory. Guys, Ohio State had this game. They were up 38-24 entering the fourth quarter. 2-score lead against the top team in the country. Wasn't enough. It was not enough. They got their field goal, but again, outscored 18-3 in the fourth quarter. Only to sit there and watch a 50-yard field goal attempt go way wide left as the ball was dropping on New Year's Eve. So, and it sends the Dogs to their second straight title game. And I think the right team won that game. I think the better team won that game. But I still say that is easily the best game that Ohio State has played all season long. And they should have walked off that field holding their heads pretty high. That's the best team in the country. I don't think there was any question to who the best team in the country was. It was easily Georgia. And Ohio State took them to the limit, man. So nothing to hang their heads about. So let's check back here. Lou Dominguez, wonder what the viewership was on that OSU Georgia game. They can't play games this important on New Year's Eve. That field goal missed at almost midnight. Yeah, tell me about it. Dude, I mean, I was in my front living room talking to Fito on our virtual thing. I had to pick up the laptop and go out to the main living room with the fam. I had the game up on my phone. And we're watching the ball drop on the TV, and I've got the game on it. Wide left, and I mean, it felt like just a second later, bam, Happy New Year. It was crazy. But Lou, over to your question. What's the line on the game, and do you think the Horny Toads can rumble with the Dogs? Like I said, I think the line is 13. Let me check. I'm just going to quick check CBS here. This might not be the most reliable source for it, but it'll be close. And we'll go to Monday. 12. This shows 12 and this shows Georgia giving 12.5. So I thought it was 13. Maybe it's 12.5. Maybe it's still 13. Could be 13.5. But what do I think is going to happen in the game? Well, what does everybody think is going to happen in the game? Has anybody out there got some predictions for me? I still say Georgia's the better team. I don't think there's really much denying that. They're the best team from the best conference, and they've been that way for pretty much 2 solid years. Like we talked about before, Stetson Bennett just continues to win football games. 36-4 in games that he's participated in his career at Georgia, again, in that conference. And that defense can just be flat out nasty when it wants to be. Not a great showing against Ohio State. They got, Ohio State took them to task all night long up until that fourth quarter. But that's what championship teams do, is they step up and they put it on you in the big moments. Big time players make big time plays in big time moments in big time games. That's just it, guys. And I'm not saying that Ohio State didn't have big time players, and I'm not saying that TCU doesn't. I just think Georgia's got more of them. And I think they've got a championship pedigree. And I think Kirby Smart has built a program there that is much reminiscent to what we saw from Alabama a few years back. But I've been behind this TCU team all year long. They also find ways to get it done. We talked about this a little while ago when we first got into it. How I was upset at the way they had been disrespected just because of all the fourth quarter comebacks. And that they were looked at as a team that is just kind of, pulling rabbits out of their hats to win football games. Look, that's not the case. Mad Max Duggan is also a winner and an amazing playmaker with both his arm and his legs. Kendre Miller, whether he can go or not, I didn't really look that up, but hell, they didn't need him against Michigan. DeMercado also, they're both capable of carrying the workload at running back. That was proven against Michigan. Right? When Miller couldn't go, DeMercado stepped in, and they didn't miss a beat running the football. It does help that Duggan is there and can take off, and you have to respect that. And then, again, Quentin Johnston on the outside. 6'4", 215 pounds. I forget what his vertical is. It's his body, nobody's Randy Moss, okay? So I'm not going to do that. But his body type, his ability to jump are reminiscent of that sort of mismatch problem at the collegiate level. He's also got 4.4 speed. It's a giant pain in the ass matchup for anybody. I do think Georgia probably wins the game, but I'll not be at all surprised if TCU has a shot at the end, and I'll definitely be rooting for it. Overall, we didn't see a whole hell of a lot in the way of defense at all on New Year's Eve between the two games, right? You had a 51-45 game with TCU knocking off Michigan. Then you had 42-41, Georgia knocking off Ohio State, sorry. So I guess my point is take the over, kids, and let it ride with who you think. I think 12.5, 13 points, probably a little too much. If I was a betting man, I'm probably going TCU. If I had to deal with a spread. If it's just straight, if I'm just money line, the bet's probably Georgia. And the bet might even be Georgia, even with the spread for a lot of you. Georgia has the capability of blowing anybody out on any given day. There's something about that TCU team, though. They just keep coming after you, as Michigan found out. So I look forward to a really fun national championship. I'm hoping it lives up to the hype created by the two playoff games, because those were incredibly fun to watch. I was posting every time TCU did something good. I found a picture of a horned frog, and I'd post that and just, hashtag ribbit. I got friends of mine that are Michigan fans that it probably pissed them off. There you go, Lou Mancini. Who doesn't love a horny frog? Rub it. Very nice, my friend. All right, let's close the show with our beloved birds here. And if there was ever a time for a rant, this would be it. There's no way to sugarcoat this, guys. That was an absolutely awful, awful performance by the offense on Sunday. How the hell? The play calling was horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. The Saints came into that game with the number 23 ranked run defense in the National Football League. You think maybe running the ball a little more often in the first half might have done you some good? Just spitballing here. Because obviously the pass game wasn't doing much for you. We only ran the ball 15 times the entire game to go along with 18 pass plays. We only ran 33 plays. But 15 times in the entire game, first of all, with the offensive line and running backs that we have is unacceptable. Second of all, when you're up against the league's 23rd ranked run defense, it's unacceptable. And I do not want to hear about, well, we didn't run a whole lot of plays at all. We just didn't have the ball that much. You could have helped your time of possession by running the football. Right? So let me do a little math for you folks that don't get it. And I'm not speaking to anybody in my chat room here. I know you guys understand, guys and girls. 3 times 4 equals 12. Average 4 yards a carry, and you'll have another first down every 3 times you run the damn football. This is not difficult. Man, now, obviously, I know it's not going to be that simple, but the point still remains. You have to run the ball. You saw what happened when we actually did start to mix in the run. The offense looked better. Except for Gardner Minshew, right? Anyway, you run the ball to get your time of possession up. Instead, it was just a barrage of very quick 3 and outs. I mean, the entire first half and into the second half, we had some too. Then we're going to move to Gardner Minshew. Okay. Let's start with the Dallas game. We're coming out of it. Oh, he looked great. He looked great. He looked decent. His stat line looked pretty good. He did throw 2 interceptions, and he probably could have thrown another 3 more had he not gotten bailed out once by, just off the top of my head, once by Dallas Goedert, once by a Dallas defender dropping the ball. And I think the other time, I don't know if it was Smith or what, but I just 3 times just off the top of my head where balls very easily could have been picked off. And there were probably other ones. Now we flash forward to New Orleans, and he was absolutely atrocious. Overall stat line, 18 of 32, 274 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But wait, there's more. It gets better. 78 yards and the touchdown went to Brown on 1 broken play. Without that play, he was 17 of 31, 194 yards, and the pick. He also fumbled it twice, which thankfully he didn't lose the fumble. There was a question over here. Keenan Harmon, I think, brings up a point that I was just about to get to with Minshew. Let's read it. Keenan, please explain to the casual fan why you keep throwing to skinny Batman, who gives you 0 yards after catch, while swole Batman and Goddard are capable of busting out of a scrum. Agreed. So my problem is Minshew's staring down receivers. Okay. The pick 6 was ridiculous. They stared him down the whole time and still throws it. Lattimore just read the thing the whole way, jumped right in front. And that was the ball game once that happened. Minshew's been horrible. Add to the fact that he can't move. This is not a mobile quarterback. Now, look, anyone thinking that we're going to have, Jalen Hurts light as our backup, I got some magic beans to sell you too. But I do think that the team during the offseason needs to look at having a backup quarterback who is at least mobile so that the RPO still becomes a thing. If you watch Dallas and New Orleans, when he tries to go RPO, okay, he takes the snap. Now, I'm Minshew. Sanders is over here. The entire defense has shifted to this side of the field. Look, if you saw from the back camera, in front of Minshew over here, there is nobody because nobody's afraid of him running anywhere. So it's just not an excuse to not run the football. your chances, at least from an RPO perspective, when you have a guy like Minshew who just can't move. And he was terrible. Awful. Who else do we got over here? Russ Taylor. Change of subject. Gilmore, I'd be surprised if Jim Steaks on South Street would be open by summer. Yeah, but I know. I'm hopeful, but not very optimistic about it. But hey, like you guys said, it's Philly. It's not like there's not other places to go get cheesesteaks, right? And, at this point, if John's roast pork isn't at the top of my list, I think Lou Mancini might actually try to break my thumbs. So we're gonna come in next summer. We're gonna have a good time. So, Russ Taylor. I love how everyone loves the backup quarterback until he stinks up the field. This has shown you how important quarterback play is on something. Agreed. What Hurts brings to the table with his athleticism, his toughness, and strength. Take a look at that 4th and short, or that where it's that. I yell it that it's the most automatic play in football when Hurts is on the field because he gets low, he gets down, he gets behind the line, and they just shove him right over. Gardner Minshew takes a snap and he's up here. Dude, you got to get down. Look, do I think Gardner Minshew could be effective in a different type of offense that was geared around a guy who was more of a pocket passer? Yeah, probably. This isn't it, though. All right. And while he had his moments against Dallas, he's just not. We need a little bit better. We need someone who fits our scheme better as a backup quarterback. Okay, that's really where it goes to with this. Lou Dominguez. Uncle Rico has not looked good, that's for sure. Eagles D should have done more against an awful Saints. Lou, sorry, I'm gonna disagree with you here. Anyone who's still complaining about the defense needs to shut up. Okay. The opening drive was terrible. I would give you that. Almost 9 minutes. Okay. It was awful. A bad way to start a game. Excuse me. But they only allowed 6 points after that. And after that initial drive, the longest amount of time that the Saints offense held the ball was about 5 minutes. I think it was like 5 minutes and 2 seconds. Other than that, everything was under 4 minutes. So, yes, the opening drive gave the impression that, that it was just terrible. This defense only allowed 13 points. Okay. Saints scored 20, but one of those touchdowns is on a pick 6. 13 points. And 7 of that was on that opening drive. The defense did its job. 7 more sacks, 2 each by Reddick and Graham, 1 each for Hargrave, Cox, and Williams. Again, opening drive was terrible. Terrible. But when you look at the fact that after that opening drive, they only allowed 6 points, despite an offense that went 3 and out on 6 different possessions and turned it over with a pick on another. I don't know what else you want from this defense. It has to stop. We can't keep blaming the defense. The defense was not the problem. Defense was definitely a problem against Dallas. For sure. They got torched. Defense was not the problem against New Orleans. When you give up only 13 points in your house, you got to win that game every single time. The offense is to blame for us now having to go beat the Giants. Lou Dominguez. That's 13 too many. The Saints offense can't score in a whorehouse with a briefcase full of DB Cooper hijacker money. Look, man, I get it. They're not good, but it's 13 points. That's not a lot. Okay. That's not 13 points is not enough to say the defense didn't do its job. These are NFL teams. Okay. We need to score more than 13 points, especially against the 23rd ranked rushing defense in the freaking league. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, Lou, on that one. Keenan Harmon. Birds win Sunday. Pam and I will be in section 108. We are 6-0 this season when we're at the game. Well, let's hope that continues. Attaboy, go get that W. I'm tired of this crap. The fact that we actually have to entertain playing Jalen Hurts this weekend is absolutely disgusting. It was just a few weeks ago when my friend Sam was on here. And even prior to that and on here, we were talking about, he's asking me, he's like, dude, the Giants are and he's a Giants fan. You guys all know it. Dude, the Giants are going to need that game. What do you think the prognosis is on Hurts? Are you going to play him? Blah, blah, blah. And at the time, we're looking at it like, no, we just need to get one of the games against Dallas or New Orleans, with Minshew at quarterback. We should be able to get one of those. No problem. Now, it's to the point where, one, we're still not sure Jalen's going to be able to go. Okay, so keep that in mind. Two, if Jalen can't go, I think we better be thankful that the Giants don't have to play all their people. Yeah, I said it. I said it loud and clear, folks. This offense, with Gardner Minshew taking the snaps, I'm not sure who they can beat. Okay? Consistently. I know there was a lot of points scored against Dallas, but keep in mind, one of those touchdowns was also a pick six. So, look, the Giants can't move up or down. They're slotted right in where they are. So, they don't have a need to play their starters, at least not for an extended period of time. If Jalen can't go, I think all of us better be hoping for that. Otherwise, guys, I don't know. Like I've said every week, we are the more talented team. If it's going to be Minshew, he's got to start looking at, he's got to throw the ball to AJ a little bit more. Throw the ball to Devontae a little bit more. Throw the ball to Goddard a little bit more. If and when you're throwing the ball, let's call a little bit more on the ground, right? Why don't you help the guy out a little bit? It's a better play calling. But good God, Minshew, Quez Watkins is not your number one wide receiver. Please stop treating him that way. What do we got here? Rich, exactly. How does he put up 30 on Dallas, but Chicago is... It is a weird game, bud. It definitely is. I think part of it is Dallas is slightly overrated. And I think another part of it is he got away with a bunch against Dallas. And I also think the play calling was better against Dallas. I mean, my God, the play calling against New Orleans was horrible. How you don't run the ball more beyond me. Anyways, injuries heading into week 18. Look, Jalen still limited at practice. He is not a guaranteed go. Coach Nick sticks to the same stuff. When he's cleared, he'll play. Like I said, it looks like the Giants probably going to sit people. Let's all be hopeful for that. I'd be honest with you here. I don't know how hard I'd push it with Jalen or anyone else, really. I get that you want the division, you want that 1 seed, but what do you want more than anything else is to win playoff games on the end of this. And if you push it too early, you might cost yourself not only your season, but you could cost some sketchy crap in the future. Gardner Johnson, his practice window has been activated, so as long as all goes well, he could return this week. Keep in mind, folks, this was a lacerated kidney. It's not fun to even say. So, again, he's another one. If I don't have to play him, I'm not going to. Avonte Maddox and Josh Sweat, we all know Maddox is out indefinitely with this severe toe injury, which means Yahoo, it's Josiah Scott again at the nickel corner position, and I'd get used to that view. It sounds like he is going to be the guy moving forward into the playoffs. That's an area that's going to have to be upgraded. If Maddox I think he's a fantastic nickel corner, but your most valuable attribute is your availability. And if Maddox can't be on the field, it's painfully obvious that Josiah Scott is not the answer there. So there's some talk that Gardner Johnson may slide down to the nickel corner position, which, then you worry about the safety spot. I mean, it's getting sticky. I also can't imagine we see sweat on the field. I mean, how bad that looked, how, coming off the field like that, that was a scary moment. He's vowing to be back. I give him a lot of credit for it. But ultimately, again, why flirt with fire, especially in the wake of what we saw Monday night? So, any of you maniacs got anything for me here before I call it a week? I hope all of you had a really nice holiday season. As we move into January now, the holiday season behind us, I'm always a little sad when it's over because, I mean, I've got 3 kids, and with each one that passes, it's one less that I have with them as kids, right? As they start to get older, things change. We all know what I'm talking about here. And to close the show just one more time with all of our thoughts and prayers going to hang on, it's just a second here. I'm sorry. Stupid ass phone. I forgot to turn the buzzer off and the ringer off on my phone. So okay, sorry. So all of our thoughts and prayers going to Hamlin and his family for in the hopes of a full recovery. And if by some chance he's able to get on a football field again, great for him. But really, we just want to see him up on his feet and able to function as a normal, live a normal life. So for all of us here at the Gilmore compound, to all of you out there, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. I want to thank all of you for joining in tonight, even if you didn't comment. But for the folks in the room, Russ Taylor, Lou Dominguez, Lou Mancini, who did I have? Fito. Who else was in here? Mamie Hall. She says, all things are possible through Christ who strengthens us. Keep the faith. Don't cease praying. To God be all the glory in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Lord, thy Savior. Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. And we will, we'll certainly keep Hamlin in our thoughts and prayers. Guys, enjoy your week. I will see you next Wednesday. I don't know if we'll have a guest or not, but I've enjoyed this time with you tonight after not being able to interact with you much over the last month or so. So stay warm. I know the temperature's about to drop. Welcome to January, and we will see you soon. I am about to get out of here. Later, y'all, and go Birds! All right, kids, take care. We'll talk to you soon. And again, go Birds!